this single wheel costs more than this entire car, which came with 4 wheels. As a matter of fact, this Mustang is the cheapest car I've ever bought, and it looks pretty good considering it's been sitting here for years. Its for sale ad might be broad, but it's straight to the point. 99 Mustang GT 4.6 doesn't run, ran rough when it was parked, and it's been sitting a long time. Paint is shot, body is in great shape. This is the first year of what's called the New Edge Mustang. It's probably one of the least desirable Mustangs available, but it's a Mustang nonetheless. These cars sell for really good money still, well, except for this one, and for likely a good reason. As stated in the ad, the car was running rough, so the owner parked it in this field, went and picked up a different daily driver, and it's been sitting ever since. And this story totally checked out when I was navigating to the address to check the car out. Here on Google Maps is a picture of the car parked in the same exact place it was in the photos, even dating back a few years. At a negotiated price of just $500, I can't help myself but to gamble on this poor abandoned pony, and it'll be a great opportunity to dig into the 4.6 liter V8, as it's the same engine that's in my stepmom's Crown Victoria, one that's in dire need of repair right now. You see, she went to a repair shop recently and was quoted near $1,000 to fix what I think is just a $20 sensor, but soon enough I'll travel to her and make sure I tune her up.
Sam, this engine isn't going to fix itself.
The car, not my stepmother, and take care of things where the lube place couldn't satisfy her needs. Again, I'm talking just about her Crown Vic. While I can only hope this shop was being honest with her, we live in a time where certain people's recommendations might not actually be in our best interest. So it's best if I just check it out for myself, but I'll only be wearing one face mask while I do, and while I'm staying at her place, I'll make sure my Wi-Fi connection is encrypted with Nordvpn. With just one tap or click, my internet traffic is completely secure. Surfing the internet through a virtual private network masks your browsing habits to anyone or any company that would normally track you, keeping your internet life totally anonymous. Besides protecting you, there are a number of other benefits to using NordVPN, like content unblocking. Basically, content providers like Netflix, Amazon, and YouTube restrict content based on your geographic location. So on Netflix in the US, I can only watch Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight Rises isn't even listed. Or is it? Let me switch my location to Japan on my NordVPN app, refresh the page, and now I can finish watching the best movie series ever created. And when you click my link in the description box, you'll get an exclusive deal on NordVPN and their newly launched NordPass, a terrifically simple password manager that can generate and store multiple complex passwords, credit cards, and other important information all in one secure spot. I believe it is a necessity to use a VPN, and the best one is NordVPN. When you visit nordvpn.com/samcrack or click the link in the description box, you're going to pay under $4 a month for, again, the best VPN service available. It's when you buy a 2-year membership, and they've got an exclusive deal for you on NordPass as well, which is a terrific password manager. Again, that's at nordvpn.com/samcrack, and I want to give them a huge thanks for securing my online life and for also sponsoring this video. So for a car that has almost 200,000 miles, at least according to the listing, it looks pretty awesome. So the paint is damaged on all the top areas, the roof, the trunk, a little bit on that hood scoop, but the rest of the hood looks pretty good. The headlamps faded. These wheels, this is strange because these tires sure don't look that old. The wheels look like they're in pretty good shape too. They're chrome. Yeah. So I know just based off of what we're paying for it, this is a good gamble. A little bit of a tear right here where the stitching is on the pony, but this is the upgraded leather interior. And another one of the reasons I really like this one is look at the shift knob. Most of the ragged out ones, you see those cue ball shifters, which I'm quite a fan of the look of the cue ball shifters in like a color that matches the paint of the car. But it's your typical New Edge Mustang, kind of cheap, plastic everywhere. But for $500, how do you go wrong? And there is a sight that you really don't need to behold. It's a 4.6 liter boat anchor. Ford put this in a lot of their cars, and it's not that fast, but at least we've got a manual transmission along with the V8 engine. That makes this well worth the $500 admission price. Look, you can see ants nests inside here. There's another one down here. One right up top that I kind of knocked off when I was opening things up. Another one right there. They're all over the place. This is definitely a car that's been sitting. So far, everything about this story matches the car, which makes this well worth the price of admission. I'm gonna see if we can't start this thing. Otherwise, I gotta call a tow. Just check the engine oil first, make sure it's got some in there. And if it does, we'll be good to start it. Let's see here. Yeah, definitely got oil in there. It doesn't even look that dirty. This is really like a gamble here. This could be something that, they just threw some fresh oil in there because it was oil starved or something. You just never know. But the owner seemed real nice and straightforward about parking it a while ago, and definitely the flat tires and the grass growing around everything kind of confirms that it was parked quite a while ago. Let's get a jumper box on that battery, see what happens. So I set up my bougie jump pack here with kind of a large Land Rover battery and some jumper cables. Now, jumper cables are never the best, but let me go inside and try and crank it like this. So I'm pressing the clutch. That's a good sign. Here we go. Ooh, blinking theft. Let's try one last thing. The jumper cable's running to the battery with the battery jumper intact. See where it gets us. All right, key in the ignition. Ooh, well, it turns. That's a really good sign. Try it one more time. Okay, we don't want to flood anything. So we'll stop it right there, get it towed. I'm sure you've heard this before, but in order for an engine to run properly, you need good fuel, spark, and air. The first thing I want to check on a car that's been sitting this long is the fuel side of things. Fuel that's been sitting a long time can gunk up the fuel pumps, the fuel filter, can restrict the flow of fuel through the lines to the engine, and just create a hard starting condition or an engine that won't run. But we do want to keep in mind what the previous owner told us, and that's that this car was running rough when it was parked, which could, again, still be a fuel-related issue. The easiest thing to start off with is a can of starting fluid. Let's just spray it in the intake here and see if we can't get this thing to at least idle for a few seconds. Ooh, check this out. Now, before we dump any money into this car, even if that just means replacing its battery, I've got a kind of dull battery here. This has a little bit of charge to it, and I've got my jumper pack. That should be good enough to start the car. We know it cranks, but it doesn't start. I've also got starting fluid. I went ahead, I loosened up our air intake pipe here, and it was kind of tight on there, which is a good sign. What I want to do now is open this throttle body up, and we're going to shoot a little bit of starter fluid in there. Let's go ahead. Our battery, jump start ready. Here we go. Not bad. Ooh, it doesn't sound good though. Let's try that again, a little bit more starter fluid. All this time while I'm trying to start it on starting fluid, look at this. The tank is on dead empty. What's the chance that there's literally no gas in this thing? Let's go and fill it up and try it again. I think I'm only gonna put in like, I don't know, what, a half a gallon, because the one thing that could be wrong is a fuel pump, and if we gotta drop the fuel tank, we don't want any extra fuel in here. But if it's just the fuel, this is gonna be ridiculous. It's not gonna be just the fuel. All right, we got a little bit of gas. I sprayed just a little shot of starting fluid in there. Nothing. Go ahead, start it. Oh, you got to give it some gas. All right, go ahead. Like that pop. I tried not to let it stall out. But we had it running on starting fluid. Man, this Mustang is right there. It really wants to start. I'm pretty confident we're gonna get it to idle. But before we go any further and just keep shooting that starter fluid in the intake, I do wanna do a quick fuel pressure test. This is a really simple test. You can pick these gauges up at the auto parts store. They're like 20 bucks. And it'll tell us what sort of pressure is coming out of the fuel rail. And on an old Ford like this, we definitely have a Schrader valve on our fuel rail. All you do is hook this thing up, and we're going to look for a consistent reading. We don't want to see any major pressure drops, and we want to see it go up to, I'd say, about 40 to 55, 60 psi, and kind of hold in between there, make sure that the car's getting sufficient fuel to keep it running. All right, just crank the accessory power. It's really slow. Now turn it off and then crank the accessory power again. Do that again. Foot on the clutch and start it.
You want me to give it a try again?
Yeah. Let off the gas. Just let off the gas. Weird. So you kept it alive by giving it gas just now? Okay, well, it stayed alive. Now, my next question is, what's in here? Because if there's ant nests all around this thing, which there were, see there's one right in there.
Do you smell that? That's a wasp nest, isn't it?
It could be wasp or ants. What is the smell? What are you smelling? Burning?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, so it ran decent.
I was keeping it about 2,000 RPM. I mean, it sounded good. It didn't sound bad.
Right now, it seems like we're getting decent fuel pressure, and we don't have anything choking off our air supply. Just throwing the air intake box together. I just want you to see how many of these little ants nests are in here. I already pulled one out before all this. There's two more. Third one right here. See, at one point they move on to a new nest. There's probably still some ants in here. That could be a part of our problem, but I doubt it. Like the seller said, this car was running rough before they parked it for so long. But how many did I just take out? I'm not even keeping count here. I have to put a counter on the bottom. Look, this is like built up against this pulley here. I'm gonna get a screwdriver to knock it out. What happens if it were the ants' nest that were just keeping the pulley stuck in place? Look, this one, I got a brake to get it out. Look at this one. Ooh, this one really is back there. Come on, could that make any difference? It might. I doubt it, but it might. Sounds like it's running rough, obviously. All right, for now, those are all the ants nests I can see. I'm gonna just button everything up here and we'll move on to the next test. If you are seeking the truth, then a compression tester is what you want. And this is something I don't love having to break out on my own cars, but hey, this was a $500 gamble, so it'll be fun. We're gonna pull the coil packs and spark plugs really quick. We'll thread this into each cylinder. We'll get a reading. I don't know what a good measurement is on a stock 4.6 Ford. You guys let me know in the comments section, but I'm assuming probably somewhere between the 150 and 220 mark. Basically, if we get anything in green and consistency on these cylinders, we're in a good place. If we see any red, we're in a bad place. This is the front cylinder on the passenger side bank. It just blew out of the spark plug hole. I either didn't have it tight or there's a problem with the threads in there. Let's try that again. All right, just got 0 on that cylinder, which is not good. Let's make sure we're actually in. Ooh, that is not good. 0 compression on third cylinder in here. I really don't want to believe this. Even though we've done this test twice on this cylinder, I just don't want to believe it. And like I've told you though, the compression tester really doesn't tell a lie. But we're gonna pull it out of here to really figure out whether we're being told the truth or not. We're going to move over to our endoscope right here, because if we truly have 0 compression on this cylinder, we will see an issue. We'll see a hole in the piston or just something. I've never actually had an engine where you have a 0 reading on just one cylinder. If I see 0 readings, it's usually on a whole entire bank of cylinders because you had timing issue or something. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use this endoscope. You've probably seen these before. It's a little probe with a tiny camera on the end and this LED to light up the cylinder. But let me show you something really cool about the one that we have, because if we have an issue with the valves, well, this has a second lens and light built in right here. So look, I'm gonna press this button on our test long endoscope and check it out. So with the ability to change views, we'll be able to look at the walls, the piston itself, the valves, and everything in between. And right off the bat, look at this right here. You see, there's just a tiny little mark on the top of the piston. Now I've seen where valves run into pistons before and you see like a half moon shape. We don't even have that here. I mean, this valve just kissed the top of the piston. Now if we change to the side lens, we'll go up a bit. And look right here, you see this valve hung open. It's probably bent just a smidgen and it's not sealing, so it's stuck open. That's why we're getting a compression reading of 0. Our compression is just escaping right through this valve opening. So we weren't really being told a lie. There is 0 compression on this cylinder, and it's definitely the reason why this car was parked and just kind of left. With our valve issues, we didn't end up with the best possible outcome here on our cheap Mustang, but it still is a cheap Mustang and it's got a stick shift, so it's not all bad news. You could fix this car and it wouldn't cost a lot of money. Let's talk about the few ideal repair solutions, starting off with an entire engine replacement. This is a 2-valve, 4.6 liter engine from Ford that is littered across junkyards across the entire United States. I'm sure you could source one of these engines in known running condition for probably between $400 and $600. But then you got to install the entire thing, which is something that I'm sure a ton of repair shops have done. I know a couple, let's call them backyard mechanics, that might do it for like $400 to $500. So for around $1,000 all in, we could get this up and running with a good known running motor, but then you've got a good known running motor that probably has 150,000 miles on it and original timing components, and it's going to last as long as it lasts. It's still really cheap, but there's even one cheaper solution that I think would be better, and that is just to source a good used cylinder head. Go ahead, pull the side off that has the bad valve in it and replace the entire cylinder head and head gasket. But then you put yourself in the scenario of, while you're in there, while you've got everything open, would you do the other side cylinder head? Hey, would you take the cylinder heads to the local machine shop and get them all refurbished? The cost of one of these cylinder heads would probably run about $100 used, but if you do the while you're in there components, you could spend another $100 or another $300 or $400. If you end up going to the machine shop, it could cost you $500 or $600 by the time you're done, and you still got a decent amount of labor. But the more you do and the more you spend, the more reliable of a Mustang you're gonna have. Now the last idea, and what I think is probably the best solution, is just to send this thing to the auction. It is an as-is car, and if I send it to the salvage auction, it will be sold in running condition with a mechanical issue. And these cars are still really sought after for their parts, and because again, it's still easy enough to fix, especially for someone that's dealt with them before. And these are trading hands between $1,500 and like a little bit over $2,000, even with paint issues, which they all have because they're over 20 years old. I mean, this thing has $500 worth of wheels and tires themselves on it. So if I could eke out a $900 to $1,200 profit at the auction, I think it sounds mostly ideal, because even a Mustang of this era with a good running engine in it is still a Mustang with the 2-valve in it that's stock. So it's not the most desirable Mustang in the world, but it doesn't matter what I want. I want to hear from you guys in the comment section. Do you want to see our cheap 2-valve Mustang come back to life? If you do, drop me a comment. Let me know, what method would you use? Would you just source a used engine? Would you do the cylinder head? Would you rebuild the entire engine? Again, let me know down there. And if you're not already following me on Instagram, where I'm going to post updates on our Mustang and any new cars coming to the channel there before anything goes live here on YouTube, well, again, I'm right here. Just click the link down in the description box. Now guys, I want to thank each and every one of you for watching today, and I'll catch you very soon.